into the meeting. Hello, folks. We'll get started here in just 1 minute. All righty, it is 3 o'clock Central, so we'll go ahead and get things started here. Thank you all for joining us. I'm sure other people will kind of trickle in, but thank you for joining us for the introduction to high school aviation courses available in Kansas. Although we do currently have courses available to high schools for the 25-26 school year, since it's too late to sign up for those specific courses, we'll discuss revisions and suggestions made to the Kansas Department of Education for the 26-27 school year. The reason we're all here today is every few years, the Kansas Department of Education reviews the transportation pathway and reaches out to industry and academia to make suggestions after reviewing those Department of Education, after reviewing the pathway. So Department of Education reached out to us included in the reaching out looking for industry information. They also reached out to K-State, Wichita State, several school districts, and industry to get the conversation going. The group came together to look at what is currently available, as well as making suggestions for the 26-27 school year, and hoping to not only streamline classes that are available, but make those classes really meaningful moving forward. Just that's what's pulling us into the conversation right now. A little bit of housekeeping before we get too far in. Make sure that you're on mute until you're ready to say something. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on our YouTube channel within a few days. Use the chat function if you want to ask a question, or feel free to just unmute and ask a question. And we'll send out the resource list, including the presentation. I did attach a PDF version of the presentation if you're able to view that in the chat. But otherwise, we'll email the information from the presentations to you shortly. So brief introduction. I halfway went through that. We'll discuss the courses that are available for 26-27, which include maintenance, manufacturing, drone, and a private pilot ground school. We'll also go over potential curriculum options, teacher credentials, potential funding opportunities. That's always a challenge. And then other resources as time permits. With that said, we'll go over why it's important to look at these careers right now. So in the past, we've heard from various sources that we don't need 3,000 air transport pilots in Kansas. That may absolutely be correct. However, we do need pilots in general. When we say aviation careers, we tend to go straight to pilots, right? We need airline, cargo, corporate pilots. We also need public safety, search and rescue, test pilots, aerial applicators. Do we have any crop dusting in the state of Kansas? Absolutely. Firefighting, sightseeing. There's a ton of uses for that, pilots are needed, where pilots are needed within the state. We'll discuss also emerging technology, which is really exciting, and where that may go in the future. Aviation as a career can also mean maintenance. So there are numerous aviation-specific careers that include, airframe and power plant. If you take a look at the left-hand side here, the yellow aircraft is a Piper J3 Cub. It is a metal frame, fabric tube, or excuse me, metal tube, fabric covering on that metal. The aircraft above it is a composite. Next generation of aircraft from Joby Aviation. The skill set needed to produce, to maintain, and to fly these two aircraft are very, very different. So being able to get our next generation into aviation courses, being able to open their eyes to what aviation is all about, and being able to teach these skill sets that are vastly changing over the next decade to 2 decades is going to be extremely important, not only for their opportunities, but also for our state economy and national security. Same thing with, the pictures on the right there. You'll see a couple of different flight decks. You'll see a standard instrument panel with what we call steam gauges and regular, radios, and nothing wrong with that. There's thousands of aircraft still flying that like that, but there's also a glass cockpit below that. Again, the skill set needed to maintain each one of these is different. Um, we also look at aviation as a career, from airport management to air traffic control to engineering to the regulatory side. And everything that we need in commercial aviation, we absolutely need in the military as well. I've mentioned this in the past. If I'm getting home and taking an airline from one location to another, if the airline doesn't have enough pilots to fly an airplane, or doesn't have enough maintenance personnel to maintain an airplane, that flight may be delayed. If the ATC doesn't have enough staffing, or there's any kind of problems with air traffic control, that flight may be delayed. However, if we don't have enough pilots and maintenance technicians and drone operators for our military, then that has national security implications. So everything that we need in commercial aviation, we also have the need for it on the military side as well. Aviation is extremely efficient as a mode of transportation. So regardless of what your students do in their life, they can always use aviation to go from point A to point B. And then the last point I'll try to make as transportation is, if we look at what happened in North Carolina with the hurricane, the feedback that we received from the Department of Transportation from North Carolina is, after the hurricane hit, airports were the only access to many of those communities, and general aviation was the only way in and out to get supplies in and out of many of those communities. So we do need more pilots. We need aviation all across the board. It takes an ecosystem to maintain aviation, from the regulatory side to the operations, to the maintenance, to the manufacturing. I'll go over briefly just very basic requirements. What's needed to what experience is needed to fly an aircraft? Trick question. None if it's a single seat ultralight aircraft. Anything less than 254 pounds for powered, or 155 pounds unpowered, you can hop in without a pilot's license and take off and be your own test pilot. Not recommended, but anything above that, you'll need a pilot's license. For private pilot requirements, now, there's a lot of nuance to this, and you can get it done in less hours depending on what training program you're enrolled in. But generally speaking, the minimum requirements for hours is 40 hours or more. The national average, 40 hours of flight training or more. National average is closer to 60 to 70 hours. You have to be 16 years old to solo, 17 for the to go for the license. There's a written test and a practical test, or a flight test. And there are more advanced certificates that you can get for additional training. Just wanted to briefly put that out. You'll get this as a resource. This is just an FYI. None of these courses will involve flight training, but just, again, wanted to give you that resource. So same question, what's needed to maintain an aircraft? Same aircraft, nothing for ultralight aircraft, but anything bigger, then there's a couple of different paths that you can take. You can either build more than 50% of it and apply to the FAA to do conditional inspections. You can also look at light sport aircraft that have reduced requirements. That's a very small set of aircraft. But for the most part, the airframe and power plant license would allow you to work on aircraft. There's different paths to get to that license. You don't have to go through any school whatsoever. You do have to apprentice under someone for this time frame. So 18 months for either the airframe or the power plant, 30 months apprenticeship, or basically experience for both. There's a written and oral. If you go to school, you can go to a 2-year program. We'll discuss those programs here. Wichita State will go over their offerings, and K-State will go over their offerings as well. 2-year program, written, oral, and practical exam, and then additional training for those specialized aircraft. Again, looking at whether it's electronics or you're working on engine and power plant. So there's specialized training. Um, Looking at drones, why, is it important to get a drone class into high schools? Well, the definition of drone is vastly changing over the next few years. When we think of a drone, we'll think of this little toy that, maybe your nephew or your niece got for Christmas, fits in the palm of your hand and just fly around for fun. Well, if you take a look, there's a couple of drone offerings here on the left-hand side. These are operated by K-State for various uses, including agriculture and testing. There's military applications for sure. On the right-hand side, there's an uncrewed aircraft that's operated by Kelly Hills for aerial application. They're also looking at medical deliveries and just really testing out the boundaries of the technology. And then in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll see an aircraft that's being designed by Textron for commercial operations. So a drone is not a drone. It's not just something that's a toy. They actually are used for multiple applications. There's also the next line of aircraft that is currently either in development or in testing, research and development or testing. These next generation of aircraft are either electric or typically are electric or hybrid, can take off like a regular airplane, can take off like a helicopter and transition to forward flight. There's truly some amazing aircraft that are currently in the works that are intended to fit specialized needs. And all of those again will require a vastly unique and new skill set. We've talked to multiple OEMs, and one of the biggest things about manufacturing is make sure that our next generation has a lot of composite training. For maintaining, make sure they have DC electric motors or that type of experience. There's a lot of different skill sets that we definitely have to look at developing in our next generation and in our workforce. Otherwise, Kansas will miss out on opportunities for decades to come. So, what experience do you need to fly a drone? And there's a lot of nuance to that as well. I'll go ahead and include the requirements. Again, you'll get a set of this. A lot of the larger drones and the uncrewed aircraft, the experience for those is currently in development. It's to be determined. But the more information and the more exposure that we have for for our next generation, the more opportunities they will have and the more opportunities we'll have as a state to grow out the technology in the coming years. Multiple applications across the state, air medical to agriculture to cargo to disaster response. There's 1,000 things that we're doing within that space, but it's extremely important to expose youth to the technology and be able to have this on their radar. So we'll talk about curriculum options here in just 1 minute. I'd love to go ahead and just jump into the courses that are currently being offered. And for that, I'll actually go to Jim and Wichita State for the initial discussion. We'll jump to K-State after that, and then we'll talk about how to sign up through the Kansas Department of Education. Jim, are you online? Mr. Price? Mr. Hall, rather, sorry. Jenna or Jim? Either one of you online by chance? Okay, maybe not. Travis or Tyson, you guys want to take over on the conversation for K-State?
Sure, I can hop in here. So good afternoon, everyone. Travis Balthazar with Kansas State University. So we offer a bachelor's degree in uncrewed aircraft systems, also a minor and several certificates. So with us, and as Ray has alluded to, the industry is very diverse. There's so many different applications. It's hard to really narrow it down into a single field. This is often used as a tool within many different facets of the industry. So for our students, we provide them, of course, the general Kansas Board of Education requirements, all those soft skills, and then we have a core set of courses really designed around flying the aircraft, multi-rotor, fixed wing, and hybrid aircraft, and then also giving them the skills to process the data that they would collect from such devices, and then to hone in on where they're really wanting to go in their into their field. we have focus areas built into our program. So what that allows them to do is look to see, are they interested in the aviation maintenance side of things? Are they more interested in composites and repair, the data analytics, the agricultural applications, cinematography, photogrammetry, all those different things? And once they've kind of honed in on what they really want their specialty to be, we have electives built in as our focus areas, which are often certificates as well, where they can hone in on what they exactly want to do when they go out in industry. So when they leave here, they're leaving with the bachelor's degree and typically two, maybe three certificates that show that they, are competent in various areas of flight operations, data analytics, and then whatever specialty they want to go into. Um, the difficult side of this and what Ray is doing here is great, but from our experience, Part 107 right now, our current regulations are difficult in the regard that anybody can study for the Part 107 exam, go take their test, and as long as they pass, go out and start flying drones. While that's certainly the case, our industry advisory board, the members that we have on it, and all of our industry connections, that's not the type of pilot or position they're trying to fill. They want something a lot more robust in their students. They want those soft skills, the communications, the written skills, and of course also the flight operations time. So being able to fly an aircraft that you can go buy from the store and everything is great, but at the same time, there's a lot more value that these industry professionals are looking for. And so for us, that's always been a hurdle to overcome. And I think that starts at the junior high and high school level. So we're often looking for ways to inject into these younger minds of illustrating that it's not just a toy. This is used for a lot of different advanced things. You can make a career out of it. You can make some good money at it. And it's a heck of a lot of fun at the same time. So anything we can do to get into the junior high and high schools to demonstrate this, I think it's great. Often, in my experience, if they're in high school, it may be a little bit too late. I think once they're in high school, they start having a pretty good idea of, one or two options that they're looking at. At the junior high level, they're quite open-minded at that point, so we can inject, hey, there's aviation careers. Doesn't have to be UAS, just aviation in general, and show them different opportunities through STEM, through drone racing, drones in schools, different things like that, where we can start getting their creative minds going and feed off of that to where we evolve them into high school as offering different options to advance into some type of 2-year, 4-year degree that ultimately leads to an aviation career. Uh, Ty, didn't know if you want to jump in with anything on the crude side of things.
Nope. Like Travis said, we're looking for pathways to get in there and make sure that high school education is done, getting resources and information out there about getting private and all that stuff accomplished medical before they get to K-State or Wichita State or wherever they're going. The pilot pathways are a little bit more difficult than our maintenance pathways. Our maintenance pathways, we're trying to watch what's happening out there in the curriculum that's being developed to allow the student learners to jump directly in and gain credits while they're still in the high school so that they can jump in at the collegiate level and finish up that associate's in a rapid amount of time.
I'll add one more thing onto that before I pass it back. When it comes to the pathways at the high school level, what we've tried to do is develop our coursework to incorporate into those pathways that already exist. So that way there are dual credit options. So that way they're not only is the high school getting credit for the pathways, which obviously leads to funding implications, but the students also getting some dual credit opportunity and getting that college credit that could be used for an associate's or bachelor's down the road. Back to you, Ray.
Thank you, Travis. And Tyson. Thank you for discussing that. There's also, you guys have had in the past train the trainer events, and once we get those, we'll share it with the schools and airports, so they're aware of that as well. Any resources that we can get into the hands of the local communities, the airports, the school districts, and we're looking also for aviation champions within the communities. This can't be just us trying to reach out to the school districts. We're looking to develop and foster those local champions. One thing you did mention that it may be too late to once students get to high school to reach them, and the goal behind our effort is to have numerous touch points for outreach. So this isn't going to be a one and done type event. We want to be able to go through K through 12, numerous outreach. And if there's any school district that, once they have someone come in and discuss aviation, or they want to be able to reach out to their local airport to have that, be able to visit those airports, please reach out to the airport directly if you have that contact, or feel free to reach out to the Department of Transportation and we'll make that connection for you. This isn't a one and done. We do need multiple points to be able to engage with the next generation. But we also need to be able to, at the high school point, have these courses be available to those students. Hopefully, it's not the first time they're learning about them. Hopefully, they've had some introductions. I believe Mr. Hall, you are on the call now, correct,
Hi,
Jim?
Ray. Yes,
Yes,
I'm here.
sir. Hey, feel free to jump in and tell us a little bit about Wichita State. We kind of did a little bit of an introduction, and tell us about your programming as well. K-State has kind of given us an update on theirs.
Yeah, I caught the tail end of that. I apologize. Jenna and myself were both delayed. You may have heard that Wichita's underwater, like all of it. And so we have pumps out everywhere. My kid is actually stranded in a parking lot. They let him off work early and they closed the roads all around him, so he's stuck. So we're having loads of fun here. So apologies for that. But yeah, happy to have some discussions about what we're having and what the programs are doing. And Ray, did you already go through over the pathway, what the production pathway is? I don't have
No,
Jenna's
if you don't mind.
slides.
Yeah, I didn't do that just because I knew you and Jenna. I haven't had Kevin come on yet. I thought you guys were going to introduce that information, but we can have
Sure,
Kevin.
yeah, and that was the plan. Once again, I apologize. We are having some pretty major issues today. We actually canceled classes for this evening because of the no travel ban that just went out. So loads of fun. So the aviation pathways, and for those of you that aren't familiar with them, they've been around for about 5 years. For the transportation portion of this, there's another portion that's under manufacturing side that goes under the engineering pathway, but this is only about the transportation side. And this was the 5-year review for this pathway. So we brought together a group of educators, secondary, post-secondary, as well as experts around the state, Kansas Department of Transportation, the FAA, to try to outline what the pathway should look like. And Ray, you said you don't have Jenna's presentation either.
Say again, I'm sorry?
Do you have Jenna's presentation from last time?
I will share. Yes, I did share
Okay.
the presentation from last time, and this recording will go on our YouTube as well.
Okay, well, I'll see if I can dig it up here in a second. To walk through that and to put it at a high level, when you look at a high school pathway, then I'm sure that most of the folks in the audience know this. There are 3 levels. There's the introduction, the application, and the, help me out, Kevin. I always forget the third one.
Technical.
Technical. Thank you. Appreciate you. And so we designed this and we made some differences across the 3 different pathways to try to make, or sorry, across the pathways to try to get them flowed together. So we used some of the original courses that had already been in place, things like the UAS course, there we go. If you can pull that up right there. Perfect. Thanks, sir. So on the technical level, fundamentals of electronics, hand and power tools, aviation fundamentals, aircraft systems were all already existing courses, but we did review those. On the introductory level, those were, we added introduction to skilled trades That was a change made across the board. Introduction level classes are usually done at the freshman or sophomore level, and then sometimes even at the middle school level. So they're not really necessary for the high school. So we're looking at technical and application level. So the things that we added quite a bit to were we added AMT general courses 1 through 4, which will allow high school students to complete AMT general while they're still in high school, no matter their location. And I'll explain a little bit about how that works later, as well as a private pilot ground school, which was a change from the original flight course that was in there that didn't really fit the pathway as the way we looked at it. And you can see we also have a couple of other courses in here that I don't want them to get lost in the shovel because they're equally important. We have a digital electronics pathway in here. So they're AC electronics, DC electronics, as you can see that, and they have a fundamentals of electronics that goes with this. All of this to tie together our aviation careers pathway. And the concept behind it was that we could provide those classes in the high school level with the least amount of burden to the high school. So what does that mean? So you have to have qualified instructors in CTE courses. So for example, we offer hand and power tools, aviation fundamentals, and aircraft systems. We offer training courses for high school instructors for free if they would like to come and take those courses with us, and we can teach them how to train those courses. And we also provide that course material to them at no charge. So the idea behind that is that any high school could do that, and we can help them achieve those levels. Now, they are not required by any means to use our curriculum, but we do offer it to them if they so choose to take advantage of that. AMT general, and you may think, well, for aviation maintenance, you have to have an A&P mechanic. Well, you don't if you use a third-party provider like Choose Aerospace, which is laid out to complete the AMT general over 2 years. That is something currently that we sponsor across the state at WSU Tech. And so we set up the school's labs as well as pay for the curriculum for any high school that wants to do that. Our whole goal behind this is, really to increase the workforce across the state. And one thing that has always been very important to us is that we don't want to pull people to Wichita from the other parts of the state. We have a need for aviation folks all across the state. So our thought is that by letting them start these careers in their high school, maybe they do matriculate to us or to K-State, but then they return home to their home areas once they graduate to continue to work in the workforce in that area. So that's the high level speech for that. So, a lot of stuff that goes together, a lot of cooperative work. One thing, and this has probably been said already. Once again, apologize for it being late. When we're looking at this, we're really looking at what we can do to improve aviation across the state. It is not. We tried really hard to take off our separate college hats and to work together to provide something for all the high schools.
Thank you for that, Jim. And it didn't, I didn't even think about it, but I do have Jenna's presentation from last time. So I will include that. I apologize, I didn't have it readily available, queued up here. So I will include that after the meeting. Appreciate the information. Kevin, if a school district wants to sign up, can you walk us through the process to sign up?
Yeah, that's right. So yes. Give me a second here. We're going to recap here. So the introductory level is more like your 8th grade, 9th grade level. Technical is probably your sophomore, junior application, your upper level. This pathway that's been reviewed by these guys, by Ray and Jim and everybody, is going in front of the school board here next week. It still needs to be finalized and stamped by them. And then once it's stamped and finalized by them, probably not till the July board meeting, it'll be readily available for districts to start applying for these pathways in the next school year. The pathway application process opens November 15th for all school districts, and they have to have their pathway applications submitted by March 1st. The pathway application, they have to have at least one course per level, and they have to have at least a mandatory minimum of 3 total credits. So they have to have that in order to have a approved pathway. And for some districts, that's difficult because they don't have the staffing, they don't have the resources, they don't have the time. It just depends on what that is to fill in some of the smaller school districts. But if some districts have the great benefit of living close by to a WSU Tech or to the Kansas State University at Salina or some other, post-secondary programs that can offer some of these courses, that's a great benefit to those districts that can utilize those programs because some of those kids can just, drive the 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever it is, to the university to get that post-secondary credit and get dual credit at the same time. If they can't do that, sometimes you can get dual credit if it's taught by a qualified instructor at the high school level. But most people, if you're familiar with at the college level, to be highly qualified, you have to have, what is it, Jim? I think you have to have a master's, or you have to have a master's in your content area or above.
Actually, in CTE you do not. So as long as the accepting college lists them as qualified, you don't. So that's why we offer the free training classes. So along with that, and not to cut Kevin off here, but all the courses that you see on the pathway, we offer all of those for dual credit as well. So they can get college and high school credit at the same time. And we do offer this across the state. It doesn't require you to be physically close to either one of our universities. We have the ability to do that. So when we get to choose aerospace in a little bit, I'll talk a little bit more about that.
So they can take it as dual credit through you, even if they're not near you.
Correct.
We may have to get into the funding piece of that. What happens is the funding piece of this, if it's taught by the school districts by a qualified instructor in their building, they receive the 0.5 funding for that. If
Correct.
it's taught by the post-secondary instructor, there is what's called Excel and CTE funding. You can't get both. You can have one or the other. But they also get into that what we call virtual learning. Sometimes a student, if we take like a virtual course, if you think about not WC Tech, but let's say some of those virtual learning programs, online learning is like some of those companies that you take a class online, but you never see or hear from an instructor. It's all self-paced learning. That sometimes your colleges and stuff like that, if they're getting that funding piece, so it's a fine line of making sure that the funding is used properly. But there is that opportunity that students can get those courses from those post-secondary institutions if it's available to them from that post-secondary institution. So I'm sorry about that if I crossed over. If I explained that correctly.
It's very good. And I'll talk about Excel and CT and all of that a little bit later when we get back to that.
But these are the new approved courses. We did change that private pilot ground school. It was flight training, but we all know that for high school and post-secondary programs at the high school, that a flight training course takes a lot of money to operate. But this private pilot ground school course now is geared towards helping students get towards that Part 107 that you guys were talking about. It's more theory based and not as much of the flight training program. So that's something they can do.
Hey, sorry to interject here, Kevin. So the private pilot ground school is just for the written tests. So students that take that training are able to sit for the written test, provided their teacher meets the private pilot written test, provided their teacher meets the requirements. And we'll discuss that here shortly when we're talking about curriculum options and teacher credentials. If so, a school district that wants to come and sign up for these courses, I understand the time frame is November. I'm sure they're aware of the application process, but for those that aren't, if you would just go over the time frame and then how they're able to sign up.
Yeah, the time frame is November 15th, starting there. They have to fill out it's just an application. Usually your CT coordinators or somebody of that nature just helps them fill out that application, but it's an online system. And it's not that difficult. The hardest part is people waiting to the last minute. It has to be submitted by March 1st because those applications have to be approved by me and us at the state, and we usually get it done ahead of time. What happens then is that once it's approved, those districts are working to build their master schedules and schedules for the next year because they've already started asking kids what they want to take and enroll in, and they start building those schedules for the fall before the fall gets here. So it's just how that works.
So November timeframe, and again, these courses we're looking at are, the recommendations are for the 26-27 school year. Any of the schools that are interested between now and when you're considering that, if you have a question regarding logistics, if you have a question regarding how to make something work, what the courses involve, we also have a handful of school districts that have implemented aviation courses that we would love to connect you to or connect you with. And that way you get a peer-to-peer, answer to your questions. It's not difficult. It seems difficult, and we want to demystify the process. We'll have 1,000 opportunities to reach out to you to explain what the requirements are. Feel free to reach out to us, and we'll be more than happy to connect you to the resources needed. For curriculum, so these courses are just the requirements that students must complete. There are numerous curriculum options. There are really huge options that are available from AOPA for the pilot pathway, as well as the drone licensing. Do we have anyone from AOPA on the call by chance? Oh, Dan.
Hey, Ray. Thank
Hey,
you.
sir.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Sorry to
the
make you wait
opportunity.
there. If you can and kind of tell us a little bit about yourself and the curriculum options available from AOPA, and tell us how expensive those curriculum options are.
I love it. Boy, you are doing a great job of teeing me up here for success. But really, Ray, Travis, Tyson, all sharing that message of all the options available. I'm going to share my screen here. Can you all see that that slide deck coming up?
Yes, sir.
Great. You've all done a great job of showing all the options available in aviation, and it's not just pilots, and it's not just airplanes. It's pilots, drone, it's maintenance. We are firm believers that if you can think of a career, you can do it in aviation, and that's what a lot of our curriculum is based on. So years ago, when addressing the declining pilot population, senior leadership at AOPA looked at, what could we do, and realized that there wasn't just one way to do that. It was the beginning of our high school initiative, which we'll be talking about here in the curriculum for a few minutes today, but also flight training is why there's so many people starting flight training and so many that don't complete. About 80% were dropping out of that. And then also access to aircraft was getting tougher and tougher and more expensive. So our Flying Clubs initiative helps provide access to aircraft through shared ownership models and builds that community. And then also there's a lot of certificated pilots that are flying, but the life gets in the way, and we've got to program rusty pilots to get in there, as well as in general, learning to fly, being involved in aviation can become an expensive prospect. So we've got scholarship program developed in this current cohort we're awarding right now, $2.1 million out there for primary flight training for primary certificates, advanced ratings, high school students, teachers, maintenance, just about anything. So great opportunities there. So that's kind of how we got to where we are today with the curriculum. So who is AOPA? The Aircraft Owners and Pilots Association. We're the world's largest civil aviation organization, a membership organization for hundreds of thousands of pilots and enthusiasts. And we're dedicated to keeping the skies free and available, that anybody who wants to fly or even dreams to fly there. And the AOPA Foundation is the philanthropic arm of AOPA. Through generous donations, we are able to fund, develop, and execute initiatives and programs dedicated to growing and supporting general aviation and aviation safety. So with regards to high schools and the curriculum, we figured there was no better place to address that pilot population and open the eyes and minds to students about those rewarding and exciting and well-paying careers in aviation than through an aviation STEM curriculum. So it addresses head-on the high-demand opportunities, and it encourages students to consider careers in aviation early and prepare them for roles in the airlines and aerospace engineering, ATC, maintenance, and more. We've built the curriculum with industry recognized stackable credentials and certifications, so that helps students gain those things they need, those credentials and certs that can lead to jobs right out of high school or put them on fast track to be qualified to be hireable sooner. We built the curriculum for teachers, by teachers and pilots. So we paired our aviation expertise with the expertise of those that are active in the classroom. So it provides them everything they need to succeed and also adheres to modern teaching practices. We designed the curriculum to meet national education standards, so it ensures quality and credibility. And it is a turnkey curriculum that includes everything the teacher needs to succeed in the classroom from day one, even if they don't have a background in aviation. Ray, you mentioned that about what's required for teachers there, and really we're providing all the information that they need to succeed. We've got the lesson plans, presentations with embedded videos, teacher notes, hands-on student activities, assessments, rubrics. It's all in there, included and provided to help the teachers plan and prepare less and spend more time connecting with their students in the classroom. And that last T that you put in the ground for me there, Ray, is how much does it cost? Well, through the generous donations, we're able to provide this comprehensive curriculum for free. So no cost to the schools to use the curriculum there. So what does it look like? Again, Ray called it out. 2 aviation STEM CTE pathways, pilot and unmanned aircraft systems, 7 courses that we have developed to serve a 4-year high school aviation program. Of course, not all programs are going to be ready to set up all 4 years in 2 pathways, so the curriculum is very flexible. Foundational at the 9th grade, talking about aerospace engineering and aerospace really an intro, like an aviation 101 through a lens of aerospace history. So it's exciting and engaging, but that doesn't have to just be a grade 9 course. That could be taught to any grade level. We've got schools that teach that grade 9 intro course to all 4 grade levels, or they do 9 and 10, or they do one pathway or the other, but options are there and flexible. But we start with that foundational course through grade 9. Grade then 10 is the students focus on the aircraft that they will maybe someday be flying or soon flying, through the forces of flight, the systems, and how those aircraft perform. And then grade 11, the paths diverge to each of their pathways a little bit deeper. And really the key piece here is that for each of those pathways at completion of grade 11, they will have completed and gotten all the aviation content knowledge they need to sit for the Part 107 test, but also the FAA private pilot written test as well. And then grade 12, we bring it all together, dive deeper into advanced flight for the aircraft of their choice. And also a culminating capstone project to bring it all together. We've also developed aviation career preparation course, a 1 semester standalone course, or could be used in conjunction with the others, to not just provide that aviation content knowledge and the skills that the students need, but how do they function in the workplace? They learn how to interview and work in teams. They learn customer service skills. They learn how to be a team player and problem solve. So a great curriculum addition there available for our students. So what are some key features of it? Learning goals are clearly defined to provide clarity, direction, and structure for the educators and students. 5E lesson format is the standard in STEM curriculum design. So we use that to make this education more effective, engaging, and applicable to real world learning. Easy access, everything the teacher needs is available through our learning management system, our online LMS, and talk briefly about that CTE content through our CPC course, but we've got it woven all the way through the curriculum. It's not just that one standalone course, but it also delivers it helps prepare those students in aviation aerospace through pathways, providing that hands-on training, the industry credentials and certs, those real-world experiences through internships, apprenticeships. We talked earlier about dual enrollment with colleges, so we're all set up for that. But really, bottom line, it provides students a strong foundation to enter that aviation workforce. National standards, we are aligned with Common Core and next generation science standards, and of course the FAA Airman certification standards to make sure we're in alignment with everything that is utilized and used in the real world. Depth of knowledge, our lessons were designed with a focus on the DOK levels to ensure we are addressing higher levels of learning. So some key features of the lessons and the curriculum there. Talking about pathways, the top two career strands we've been talking about, the pilot and UAS, makes sense. We use the AOPA 9th grade and 10th grade course, 11th, 12th for those specific pathways, and they're well on their way to a successful career in aviation. But for those other strands, aircraft maintenance, ATC, the AOPA 9th and 10th grade courses provide a tremendous foundation for those students entering aviation maintenance courses like Choose Aerospace or dual enrollment with an ATC, post-secondary ATC program, but they will be way ahead when they start that training, which puts them way ahead for the job market once they finish their formal training there. We're growing. 570 programs. We're serving over 1,400 schools nationwide. Currently in this school year that we're wrapping up, 48 states, 29,600 students. Pleased to announce that we have all documents received and schools approved, ready to go in all 50 states, including Kansas. Happy to add 5 schools to our repertoire and to our family in Kansas as well. So almost 100,000 students have been served using our curriculum to date. And those are the schools that will be joining us next year. We're extremely excited to have that and can't wait to support more. Any questions about the curriculum or how it works or anything at all, any help setting up the program, we'd be happy to help. Just start the ball rolling with hs@aopa.org and email there, and we've got a team standing by. On the meeting here, Nikki Nichols, who is our key player with school outreach, and she's great at getting schools on the path. So Nikki, anything more to add on your end, or did I get it?
I think you handled everything. I just know, guys, that the applications will be open for the 26-27 school year beginning in November. You might could see it possibly in October, but definitely November will be up and ready to receive you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Fantastic information. Thank you very much, Dan and Nikki. I love the presentation to kind of show that we're not just talking about drone pilot and aircraft pilot. These courses, and not just, in all honesty, not just the AOPA curriculum. I'm glad that the AOPA curriculum includes that, but these courses that we're suggesting to the Department of Education are foundational and provide value as an initial step for any aviation career. So, whether someone is interested in being a pilot or a drone pilot or maintenance technician or interested in going into manufacturing or airport management or state director of aviation, whatever the case may be, these are foundational courses, and there is a lot of value in having your students take these courses. So
Absolutely.
excellent presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you for everything that you guys do, and hope to add a lot more schools over the coming years to
Appreciate the
AOPA
time.
curriculum.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Tom, I see Tom Chandler also on the call there. Tom is an AOPA rep, and he participates in a lot of our state outreach as well. Tom, anything you want to add to the conversation right now?
Nope. I had our specialists on board, so they did a great job. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for going over that. And I believe, Jim, you mentioned that Choose will not be on this call. However, you can discuss their curriculum
It's
options.
just going to be me, Ray. I'm the kind of the one-man band today. This is actually the week of Choose Aerospace's annual high school instructor training. So all of the folks are down there in Tulsa right now doing high school instructor training. So that's one of the things that's really cool about Choose Aerospace, that it makes it kind of unique from other programs is that to qualify the instructors, they actually have a training course that they put high school instructors through. They don't have to be aviation folks because the curriculum is all set up online, but it does contain many different parts. And Ray, if I can share my screen, I
Yes, sir.
think I've got this set up. So it is broken down into 12 different sections over the 4 courses, and they're made to be, the 4 courses should align with the 4 semesters of a junior and senior high school students, allowing them to get the credits they need to complete the high school pathway, but also preparing them for their AMT general course. One of the fun things about that, like I mentioned, is that they don't have to be a aviation professional. Matter of fact, our very first instructor was a librarian, and it's worked really well. So it's a series of, this presentation is not pretty. It's not Choose Aerospace's presentation, so don't judge them by my poor presentation. They do have a series of video lectures along with interactive assessments and open knowledge textbooks. One of the things that we have done with our partnership with Choose Aerospace here in Kansas is that I put a AMT instructor virtually into the classroom once per week with these students to help them go over their labs as well as answer any questions that they may have. This is something we're really heavily invested in, and we are rolling this out all across the state. We're going to be in Dodge City next year. We're going to be in Coffeyville and Goodland. We'll all have Choose Aerospace schools next year, which we're helping support them. It allows them to get 10 college credit hours with us, as well as they can matriculate to us directly. And as I mentioned earlier, we do dual credit all of the pathway courses and train instructors to do them still, no matter where they're at. But the impetus behind Choose, and this was not developed, Choose is a nonprofit that was developed by the Aviation Technicians Education Council prior to COVID, believe it or not, to help expand into the high school pathways. So the curriculum was all developed through a grant through Clemson University. They helped put this together, and then it's a big nonprofit. There's exactly 3 employees to it that they're really working to spread this out. But they are going across the nation and really expanding their footprint with the idea of bringing aviation to the high school education. And it really fits well with what we do here in Kansas. Being in the air capital of the world, as we like to say, we really feel like aviation is important. But we'd like to replicate what they've done in Oklahoma. They've got Choose Aerospace in over 150 schools already. So Oklahoma's aviation efforts are far outpacing what we're doing here in Kansas. And I know Ray's really wants to close that gap and make sure that we are putting as many aviation opportunities into high schools as they have in the Oklahoma area. I'm happy to answer any questions about how these programs work. One thing I guess I should mention, XL and CTE funding with WSU Tech, we return the XL and CTE funding to the high school. So you're more than welcome to partner with any college you like, but that's one thing that really sets us apart is that we pay back the XL and CTE funding to the high schools. So it's something that we do. But if you would like to partner with another college, that is not a problem at all. We're still happy to show you how to set up these pathways. Our training is still free to you, no matter who you partner with. It's really part of our commitment to expand aviation across the state.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that conversation. One of the things that, you heard from AOPA and you heard about Choose Aerospace. Those are 2 great commercial curriculum options. They're not the only options, but they're tried and true, and they're great options to look at. You can also, you've heard of the willingness to work with schools throughout the state, from Wichita State and K-State. There's a willingness to grow aviation within the state. If you have the interest, please reach out to any of these individuals. If you don't have the contact information, reach out to the Division of Aviation, and we'll be more than happy to put you in touch with these individuals. We want to grow aviation within the state, not only for opportunities for our next generation, but also for the economic opportunities that those new workforce, those entering the workforce, bring to the state. If we don't grow these various skill sets, Kansas aviation within Kansas will wither away. So we can't just rest on being the air capital of the world and continue to manufacture airliners in that Wichita area. Our skill set has to grow based on the needs, and there's a lot of technology coming, and we need our next generation to be able to take advantage of that. Carol with the FAA is here. Carol, you want to say a few words about what offerings and what assistance the FAA has?
Well, absolutely. So the FAA does have a FAA Aviation Workforce Development Grant program. We are currently in round 4. The sad part of this is due to the new administration that has been pulled at the moment. They are reevaluating some of the verbiage. We're hoping, fingers crossed, that it will come back out here soon. And I'm assuming that the time limit will not quite meet the school's limit. So I'm not sure what they're going to do with that at this time. But I also went ahead just because of the unknown with that. But I did do some research and I created a document just to pull up like some scholarships because there's the Experimental Aircraft Association offers scholarships to students, women in aviation, AOPA, NBAA, NASAO. I mean, the list kind of goes on for opportunities for students. So I do want to make that known. And once we get some word out about the grants, we will certainly push that. But I will say, I've also on this document have said that if you subscribe to the newsletter, as soon as that is released, you will have notification probably sooner than I will. So I will provide that to Ray to attach with everything that he is sending out so that you guys all have that at your hands, fingertips. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free. I'm always available. Love to chat and do anything that I can do to help with getting aviation out to Kansas. So
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that very much. So one of the things that we kind of discussed is this can't be the only opportunity that we discuss aviation with schools. We are interested in growing and promoting outreach. If you haven't been, and I'm speaking to the schools right now, if you haven't been out to the airport, if you haven't taken classes out to the airport, please do so. Take that opportunity. I will tell you, I am a product of USD 259 in Wichita, Kansas. I had a high school teacher that took us to the airport and his friend took us for a flight. And I found out later in life that I was the second year of the EAA Young Eagles program. If you're not familiar with that, it's an amazing program to put youth age 8 to 17 in aircraft, give youth a free flight. So whatever curriculum option you choose and whatever program you want to go with, I would recommend at least that initial flight for your students to give them a taste of aviation, a taste of what being in an aircraft is all about. It's free, and you can do that 9 times out of 10. It'll be at your local airport or somewhere nearby. Tyson, you have your hand up, sir?
I do. I just wanted to reiterate that because that's a great point, Ray. And whenever a group comes together, whether it be an EAA chapter or Young Eagles chapter, or it's the tour, Kansas tour, if a group of people are meeting and they want to see a K-State airplane or UAS or whatever, we will go out of our way to land at your local airport and show off, if you will, because we know that that brings eyeballs and excitement and everything else, and that's cool. And whether the kid goes to Wichita State or Heston or wherever, it doesn't matter, because what Ray said at the onset is true. We're just trying to provide the energy to grow aviation within the state, and so we are willing to get out there. So if you guys have a gathering and you guys want aviation, hit us up. We will show up.
I will say a lot of the people on this call that are participating have also shown up, from AOPA to K-State to Wichita State to the FAA. We're all really interested in growing aviation. So appreciate that comment, Tyson. So just going over, there's multiple curriculum options. I do have this information that will get emailed out to you. If you have a local community college that wants to be involved and have aviation courses, have them reach out so they can look at implementing those courses. Short of that, work with your Wichita State, your K-State, those that have that established program. You've heard a lot of resources being discussed. There's Choose Aerospace and Rainbow Aviation Services for maintenance. Choose Aerospace, obviously, for the broader aviation curriculum. For your pilot training, there's again numerous options, numerous paths that you can take. If you want the training for the pilot course to count towards the FAA written test, then the instructor has to be either a licensed FAA ground instructor or a licensed FAA certified flight instructor. If your students aren't going for the FAA written test, then you don't have to worry about that. If a teacher isn't licensed, there is certification course that you can go through to get to become a ground instructor. It's not too extensive, but ideally, you want someone that's going to be invested in being that aviation champion. I'm sure there are those flight instructors, ground instructors in your local community that would be more than happy to participate in that. Again, so those courses count towards the requirements to take the FAA written test for your students. There's curriculum, again, from AOPA for the drone and for the pilot courses. If you have time to do a full 4-year, then that's an amazing opportunity for your students. If you don't have those resources, you're a smaller community, AOPA will work with you to design a program that will be the right size for your community. They're an amazing organization to be able to right size the program based on your needs. Kevin mentioned earlier there may be challenges with smaller communities. I've experienced that myself when I was an airport manager. However, you can pull students together. You can figure out ways to make it happen, make it available. Those students can go out to the airport to have an extremely engaging and dynamic learning environment. And you can have your local aviation champion there be able to help with those courses. And there's also curriculum options and STEM activities from the FAA as well. Again, you will get these resources, a little bit of information that's available at your fingertips. Everybody wants to know about funding. I don't believe John Chitwood is on the call. But you can look at setting up charitable foundations to help with funding if you do want to take it beyond, just the ground school. If you want to start looking at flight training, many of the people on this call are looking for a way to make the drone courses more engaging. So we're looking for a way to help have an event to where we have maybe a statewide competition for a drone racing league. There are national drone racing league competitions, but we'd love to have that opportunity to help promote and grow aviation within the state. We're also looking for funding opportunities to help get funding in the school district's hands to be able to acquire the equipment. Nothing is guaranteed. It's certainly difficult to find funding anywhere, but we're working on those. There are some additional funding options that you can explore on your own as well, and then other resources as well. So I will include this list of resources. We're slightly long on time. Anyone else that wants to either have a question or chime in with additional resources or conversation, please feel free to unmute and have a discussion. All right. Well, thank you all for joining us. Look for this information by email, and the recording will be posted on the K.Aviation YouTube channel. I appreciate all the presenters and your time and commitment to this process, and all of the academic and industry partners that helped make the suggestions to Kansas Department of Education. And also thank you to the Department of Education for reaching out and looking for those updates. So thank you all. Have a great day. Thank you very much.